"You're cutting my salary to 36,000?" That's the first thing I said, loud enough that the air in the room changed. Dana didn't flinch, just folded her hands like she was leading a prayer. 3 other execs sat around the conference table, fake neutral expressions on their faces. I barely knew their names. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. She slid the paper toward me like it was some kind of gift. It's part of a strategic restructure. Across departments, Bull, I'd seen the signs coming for months. Meetings I used to lead suddenly canceled or moved without me. My lab access restricted. Equipment missing, budgets frozen. Then came the finger pointing. Missed benchmarks. Faulty samples. All landing on me. I knew I hadn't screwed up. They were freezing me out, one calculated step at a time. I didn't grab the paper, just stared at it. 92,000 down to 36.8? That wasn't a restructure. That was a message. I looked her in the eye. "Let me think about it." Dana tilted her head like she was surprised I didn't immediately argue. One of the suits finally spoke. Some guy from finance, I think. "We're hoping you'll stay, Nate. We know this is a tough ask." I gave a tight smile. "Yeah, real tough." And I walked out. "My name's Nate. I'm 43, divorced, live just outside Cincinnati. I've got full custody of my 11-year-old son, Liam. He's got Crohn's, chronic pain, hospital visits, meds that cost more than my rent. Insurance barely dents it. That pay cut wasn't just insulting. It was a test. They thought I'd take it because I had no choice. They thought they had me by the throat. I got into my car, closed the door, and sat there gripping the steering wheel. My hands were cold. My heart wasn't racing. It was steady. Because I'd seen this coming, I just didn't expect them to be this sloppy about it. They thought I couldn't afford to walk away. That was their mistake. I drove straight home after that meeting, didn't stop, didn't call anyone, pulled into the driveway, shut the car off, and just sat there staring at the cracked cement wall of my garage. I didn't feel defeated. I felt lit, like something had just snapped into place. I walked down into my basement, flipped on the lights, and stepped into the one place they never touched. My lab wasn't pretty. Old counters, beat-up stools, plastic bins full of test tubes and bleach-stained notebooks. But this place, this was where the real work happened. Not that corporate fluff Dana kept trotting out for board meetings. I'd been with CleanMax 8 years. When they handed me the sanitation chemical line, it was dead weight. Nobody wanted it. Sales were trash, reviews were worse. I put my head down, built better formulas, tested them myself, and turned that division into their top revenue stream within 3 years. The big secret? Most of my breakthroughs happened down here. Late nights after Liam was asleep, me scribbling formulas and running tests with gear I bought myself. Because I couldn't risk waiting on slow approvals and budget red tape. I had work to do, and I didn't owe them my weekends. That night, I grabbed my old employee contract. I'd read it before, but not like this. I sat at the kitchen table, circled lines with a red pen, and zeroed in on a clause I'd skimmed years ago. Company IP includes all work produced during designated hours, on company premises, with company resources. That was the loophole. Every single one of my real breakthroughs, made on my own time, using my own setup, and I'd been smart enough to track it all. Time-stamped videos, physical receipts, lab logs with dates and times. I even had Liam in a few of them, sitting at the bar eating cereal while I mixed test batches. That's when I hired Jared. He was a sharp, no-bull patent lawyer out of Columbus, specialized in chemical AIP. We kept things quiet. I emailed him updates through a dummy account, met in person twice, always off the clock. I gave him everything, samples, notebooks, footage, and let him work. The morning after the pay cut stunt, I called him. No greeting, no small talk. "Is it airtight?" He didn't hesitate. "We're good to go. 3 provisional patents filed, all under your name." I let out a slow breath. "Including the cold water compound? That one's the crown jewel," he said. "Fully documented, clean timeline, 0 overlap with company gear. That cold water formula? It cut heating costs by almost 40% without losing sanitation quality. Big deal for any industrial client. Clean Max didn't even know I had it. They were still hyping the lemon-scented nonsense they diluted down for profit margins. I hung up, walked downstairs, and sat on the old stool in front of my lab bench. Picked up the first notebook I'd ever used in this basement, stained, beat up, full of half-legible notes and scribbles. On the first page, I'd written, "Figure it out yourself." They thought I was just another lab rat who'd stay in line. What they didn't know was, I already owned the maze. I walked back into that office 2 days later, with a coffee in hand and a carefully rehearsed look on my face. Dana gave me her best fake concerned smile. "Nate, any thoughts on the offer?" I sat down slow, leaned forward like I was weighing a life decision. I'm trying to figure out what makes sense for Liam. His treatments aren't cheap, and the insurance. I shook my head, sighed. "It's just a lot." She nodded like she cared. "Of course. We understand. We're not trying to make this harder for you." That was a lie so big it should have come with sirens, but I kept my tone calm, careful. "I just need a little time." "Take what you need," she said, "but not too long. We'll need to fill that role if you can't commit." They thought I was stalling out of desperation. What they didn't know? I was already talking to their biggest nightmare, Caltech Solutions. I sent a private message to Marcus Bennett, their head of R&D. He and I had crossed paths at a trade show once, years ago. He respected results, and I had plenty. We set up a video call. I walked him through my portfolio, the real one, not the scrubbed-down version CleanMax had tried to steal credit for. Halfway through, he said, "You did all this in your basement?" "Every drop." He leaned back in his chair. "We'd kill to have you here. I'm not bullshitting. We need a guy like you. Senior product director. 180 base plus full R&D authority." I didn't flinch. "One condition, the patents stay mine. We license them, not transfer. I own the work." Marcus didn't even blink. "Done. I'll loop legal in today." That was the moment I knew I'd won. Not the whole war yet, but the critical move, locked. I spent the next 3 days doing two things: feeding just enough hesitation to Dana to keep her thinking I might cave, and reviewing the license agreements with Jared and Caltech's lawyers. We tightened everything: royalty clauses, exclusivity terms, performance incentives. My formulas would make them millions, and I'd get a cut of every gallon sold. On the outside, I kept playing the tired single dad card. I just don't want to move Liam's care team. I need to know I can still be there if he flares. Dana even brought in HR for a wellness meeting. Tried to spin it like they were worried about me. I nodded through it all, thanked them for their concern, and walked out smiling. Back at home, I cleaned out the basement lab, packed samples, wiped drives, backed up everything to a hard copy. I was done working in the shadows. From here on out, everything had my name on it, and anyone trying to steal credit would have to pry it from a legal team twice as hungry as they were. Liam came downstairs and saw me boxing up supplies. "Are we moving again?" I looked at him and smiled. "No, buddy. We're moving up." I buttoned my black suit jacket and looked in the mirror, shaved, pressed, polished. I looked like I was going to court, because that's what this was, just not in front of a judge. I drove to CleanMax headquarters with no music, no distractions, just the sound of my own breathing and the soft scratch of a manila envelope sliding around in the passenger seat. 3 licenses inside, 1 for each formula. I parked in the visitor lot, walked through the front doors, and ignored the fake smiling receptionist. Dana's assistant saw me coming and stood up like she was about to block me. "I've got a meeting," I said without stopping. "But she's not..." I pushed the boardroom door open. 7 people inside. Dana, 2 execs from legal, 1 from operations, 3 guys I didn't recognize. I didn't care. I walked straight to the head of the table and dropped the envelope right in front of Dana like I was delivering a summons. "Licensing offer. $42.50 per formula, per month. That's $12.75 total. Starting immediately." She didn't touch it, just sat back and crossed her arms. "You don't own these." I opened the envelope, pulled out the patent filings, and spread them across the table like playing cards. "Actually, I do. Filed, time-stamped, and documented. Every compound developed outside your walls, off your clock, with my own gear." One of the legal guys leaned forward. "That's a stretch." You use proprietary data in some of this testing. We can tie it back to the company I looked right at him. You can try. But if you push this, discovery's going to get messy. Pretty sure your servers still have Dana's emails suggesting I be phased out quietly before Q3. That's just the tip. Dana's eyes narrowed, but she stayed quiet. I wasn't done. And just so we're clear, this isn't a negotiation. I've already accepted a senior director position at Caltech. My start date's Monday. These licenses are exclusive. You've got until Friday to sign. After that, they're gone. The room went dead still. One of the unfamiliar guys, VP of something probably, picked up a sheet, skimmed it, and said, "If this formula works as claimed, we're going to lose half our margin without it." Dana finally spoke, her voice low and tight. "We made you. You don't walk away from everything we invested and hold us hostage like this." I leaned in, steady. "No, you underestimated me. That's different." She stood up like that was supposed to rattle me. "You've got a kid, right? Crohn's? What happens when your new job doesn't work out?" I smirked. "What happens when your board finds out you let the company's top IP walk out the door and gave the competition full market access?" No one answered. One of the younger execs finally asked, "Are you open to an annual licensing deal instead of monthly?" I shook my head. "Nope. Monthly keeps you honest. Keeps me in control. You want stability? Don't screw me next time." Dana's mask cracked for real then. Her jaw tightened, her voice hard. "This isn't over." I picked up the empty envelope and walked to the door. "For you, maybe." "For me?" It just got interesting. I didn't even make it to Friday. They caved in 2 days. I got the call from their legal team Wednesday afternoon. Contracts signed, funds wired, licensing deal active. $12.75 a month, every month, just to keep using the formulas they tried to steal for free. By the following week, Dana was out. No press release, no big goodbye, just gone. One day she was head of operations, the next, a blurry internal memo about organizational shifts and performance realignments. I knew what that meant. Somebody higher up finally looked close enough to realize how bad she'd screwed up. Friday rolled around, and for once, I wasn't scrambling. I had a real paycheck coming, Caltech onboarding scheduled, and more leverage than I'd ever had in my life. So I took the afternoon off and picked Liam up early from school. He came running out with his backpack bouncing off one shoulder. "What's going on? Did I forget a doctor thing?" "Nope," I said, unlocking the car. "I figured we deserved a break." He buckled in, gave me a look. "Are we celebrating?" "Yeah," I said. "We are." We hit a burger spot off the interstate, place with real fries, none of that freezer bag crap. Liam got a triple cheeseburger and a milkshake that was more candy than ice cream. I didn't even care about the sugar. He was smiling. For the first time in a long time, I saw the kid under the diagnosis. On the way home, we passed the animal shelter, and on impulse, I turned in. Liam sat up in his seat. "Wait, are we getting a dog?" "I don't know," I said. "You tell me." 30 minutes later, we walked out with a scrappy little mutt missing half an ear, brown fur, crooked tail, and a growl like she'd seen some rough days. Liam was petting her head in the back seat. "She looks like a survivor." I looked at him in the rearview mirror. "So do you." We named her Rusty, not because of her color, but because she was tough under pressure, like an old bolt that still held tight when everything else came loose. That night, she curled up at Liam's feet while he did homework. I sat on the couch, laptop open, looking at the Caltech onboarding docs, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't scrambling. I wasn't being cornered. I wasn't being used. I'd taken the hit back harder, and came out on top. The first time I walked into my new lab at Caltech, I didn't say a word. Just stood there a second, taking it all in. My name was on the glass door. Real lab, real team, real budget, and no one second-guessing whether I belonged there. I had full control, hiring, testing, project flow. If something worked, it moved. If it didn't, we scrapped it and pivoted. No dragging ideas through 5 layers of politics. The team, sharp, no egos, no game playing, people who gave a damn about doing the job right. We worked fast, clean, and honest. 2 weeks in, I was reviewing a batch of reports when Liam came into my home office. Rusty followed him like a shadow. He leaned on the doorway, studying me. "You look different, Dad." I raised an eyebrow. That so? He nodded. Like that day we went camping and you fell asleep under the stars. I didn't have an answer for that. Just smiled and kept reviewing test notes with a little more pride in my chest. Later that night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, but local area code. I picked up. Hey, it's Ryan, from CleanMax. I was in your division a while back. Junior chemist, I remembered him. Smart, quiet, stayed out of drama. He cleared his throat. Figured you should know. They're trying to reverse engineer your formulas. Word is, legal thinks if they tweak a few compounds, they can work around your patents. I sat up straight. They won't pull that off without serious exposure. Yeah, well, Decker's running the show now. Doesn't care about exposure, just numbers. I thanked him, hung up, and called Jared, filled him in. He listened, didn't say much until I finished. Then he said, "We need to move fast. You need something harder to mimic. You ready to go bigger?" "Already thinking about it," I said. That night, I sat in the garage while Liam slept upstairs. Rusty curled at my feet, snoring. I pulled out a notebook and started sketching. Not just a product, a system. Most industrial cleaners focused on a single use case: degreasing, disinfecting, descaling. But I saw a way to link it all together. Cleaning agents that worked as a network, adjustable based on temperature, surface, equipment type. Layered chemical logic, smart dosing, less waste, faster results. Clients wouldn't just be buying a product, they'd be buying control. Something CleanMax couldn't reverse engineer with a few tweaks in a basement. I stayed up until my hands cramped. Diagrams, flow maps, supply chain projections. The more I built it out, the clearer it got. This wasn't just a new product line. This was the next level, and I was already ahead. The next morning, I walked into Caltech's strategy meeting with 2 cups of coffee and a stack of sketches. Dropped them right on the table in front of Marcus. "This is the play," I said. "We stop thinking like a vendor. We start acting like infrastructure." He raised an eyebrow, flipping through the pages. "What am I looking at?" "A bundle system. Full spectrum cleaning platform. Products that talk to each other. Built-in savings across time, water, and energy. It's not just better chemicals. It's a better way to run operations." He slid one of the pages toward the vice president of sales. "This looks expensive." I didn't blink. "It'll pay for itself in 3 months. Faster turnover, lower training time, lower power bills, and it'll take CleanMax 5 years to even get close." Marcus looked up at me. "You sure about that?" "Bet my house on it." He nodded once. "All right, 90 days, full sprint." We fast-tracked the entire project. No red tape, no fluff. Just war room energy and late nights. I pulled my best techs off everything else, gave them full access to my patent stack, and we got to work. Every piece had to fit. Detergent formulas, smart sensors, automated dosing protocols, thermal response adjustments. It was like building a race car with no manual, 90 days. All hands on deck. We built, tested, adjusted, rebuilt, and tested again. Sometimes we failed hard. Corroded tanks, clogged pumps, misfiring sensors. But every failure tightened the system. By week 10, we had a working prototype. Final results? Cleaning time down by 40%. Energy use slashed 60%. New staff could be trained in half the time with fewer mistakes. It was lean, fast, and impossible to replicate without the full bundle. We rolled it out at 3 major plants, 2 longtime Caltech clients, and 1 that had just dumped CleanMax over rising costs and inconsistent quality. I watched the install teams handle it in real time. No backtracking, no complaints. One plant manager called me the day after launch. "This thing hums," he said. "We'll never go back." That line stuck with me. It wasn't just about the numbers anymore. It was about control. With this system, companies didn't have to settle for junk dressed up in corporate buzzwords. They didn't have to get bullied into bloated contracts with hidden fees. They could just run better. Late one night, I was back in the garage. Rusty snored under the bench. I had the next round of upgrades on paper. More automation, tighter chemical precision, better reporting tools. Liam came in rubbing his eyes, pajama pants twisted sideways. "You still working?" "Just sketching," I said, sliding over so he could sit. He looked down at the page. "That thing you're building? Is it going to change stuff again?" I glanced at him. then back at the drawing. Yeah, buddy. It just might. 2 weeks after rollout, I started hearing the rumblings. Clients were pulling out of CleanMax left and right. Their support lines were jammed, reps were panicking, and rumors flew fast. Something about them trying to duct tape together a cheap imitation of our bundled system. It didn't work. Ours wasn't just cleaner chemicals. It was an ecosystem. Everything fit together. You couldn't reverse engineer it with a few tweaks and a half-trained intern. But that didn't stop them from trying. Then Ryan called again. They're falling apart, he said. Decker's running it now, and he's clueless. Morale's shot. 6 chemists quit last week. 1 mid-shift, just walked out and never came back. You still hanging in there? I asked. He laughed, but it wasn't the good kind. Barely. I'm pulling 16-hour days trying to fix broken batches with half a team. I didn't hesitate. Come work for us. He went quiet. You're sharp, and you never played games, I said. We do things different over here. You'll get respect, decent hours, and your name on what you build. 2 weeks later, Ryan was on our payroll. He walked into the lab with a duffel bag, a worn-out laptop, and this look on his face like he hadn't taken a full breath in months. You saved me from that place, he told me. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about Dana anymore. Wasn't even about revenge. It was about building something better than what we came from. CleanMax had built a system that drained people dry and buried good ideas. We built the opposite, and it showed. Our bundled platform became the new gold standard. Industry blogs called it the most disruptive development in sanitation logistics in over a decade. Competitors scrambled to play catch-up, but we were already on version 2. Then Jared called. His voice was dry, but I could hear the grin behind it. Guess who came crawling? I knew before he said it. CleanMax reached out, he told me. They want to discuss a buyout. Quiet, no public noise. At the next executive meeting, Marcus brought it up. Should we hear them out? I nodded. Yeah. Then I looked him dead in the eye. But under our terms. I walked back into CleanMax exactly 1 year after they tried to cut my salary by more than half. Same lobby, same cold tile floors. But this time, I wasn't the guy getting cornered. This time, I owned the room. Caltech closed the deal 3 days earlier. Full buyout. CleanMax would keep its name, keep some structure, but everything else changed. New leadership, new direction. And I was appointed director of R&D over both companies. First thing I did, called a meeting with the remaining chemists. Same conference room where Dana handed me that insult of a contract. Now, I was standing at the head of the table. I looked out at the faces, some familiar, some new, all unsure. I didn't ease in. We're not doing things the old way anymore. A few people looked down. A couple sat up straighter. One guy in the back crossed his arms, but said nothing. If you're here to collect a paycheck and hide behind process, go. If you want to build something better, you'll get every resource I can give you. But we're not playing the old games. Not here I meant every word. I didn't want revenge hires or quiet bitterness leaking into the walls. I wanted people who gave a damn. If they couldn't shift gears, they'd wash out on their own. And they did. Some left without a word. Others leaned in, took the challenge, and started rebuilding something worth being proud of. A week later, Liam came by after school. Rusty jumped out of the car before he even opened the door. I was still moving into the new office. Half the shelves were empty, whiteboards blank, but the view was sharp. CleanMax HQ. Different now. No politics, no fake smiles, just work to be done. Liam stood in the doorway, looking around. You're the boss here now? I smiled. Something like that. He scratched Rusty behind the ears. Cool. Think we can get her a friend? I laughed. Let's see how she feels about that. He grinned and dropped onto the couch like he owned the place. Rusty curled up at his feet. The door stayed open. Not just to the office, but to the next phase of whatever the hell came next. 1 year later, I sat in my office, feet up on the edge of the desk, looking out over the city. Rain tapped the window, steady and slow, like the kind of rhythm that keeps you thinking. On the desk sat a photo of Liam hugging Rusty, both of them half covered in mud from the backyard. Right next to it, a plaque my team gave me for my birthday. Real leaders build better systems. CleanMax didn't look anything like the place I walked back into 12 months ago. We scrubbed it clean, figuratively and literally. Politics were out. Power games, dead. You showed up, did the work, and you got credit. No more stolen ideas, no more career cliffs for speaking up. We made it a place people actually wanted to work again. And that wasn't a slogan, that was the result. My phone buzzed, text from Ryan, new client signed, big one. Used to be Clean Max only, switched to our platform. Said they'd been waiting for us to offer direct. 2 seconds later, another ping. Jared, patent board just gave full approval on the integrated system. Tightest IP wall I've ever seen. You're bulletproof. I sat back, smiled to myself, and closed the laptop. Liam's treatments were covered now. No back and forth with insurance, no waiting on paperwork while his symptoms got worse. His health was solid, weight was up, energy back. He'd just gotten into a summer science program, competitive one out of Chicago. He earned it. Kid's sharp. I looked around the office, clean lines, tall shelves, sharp light coming through the glass. Not a trace of the old culture left. That day in Dana's office flashed in my mind, her pushing that paper across the table like she was doing me a favor. Like she expected me to fold. What she didn't know? She was handing me the start of all this. That pay cut wasn't a punishment. It was fuel. I didn't yell, didn't throw a fit, didn't burn the place down. I documented, I planned, I outmaneuvered. They had titles, budgets, board seats. They had the illusion of power. I had a plan, and I made it count. In the end, the quietest moves made the loudest impact. No one saw it coming, but they damn sure felt it.